panel that I was just on was the Video Innovation Speed Date. And yes, the moderator, Bruce, did make us all pretend to be video and pitch ourselves as though it were a speed date.
Did you go home with anyone?
I don't know who made the cut. He didn't want to play favorites right up front. But, you know, it was interesting. I think we all came from, you know, somewhat different perspectives. And my key takeaway, or I guess at least the thing which I had going in was, you know, there's a lot of great innovation in video, particularly around video advertising, but also as an industry, we still had a ways to go just to really nail the basics and to, you know, sort of agree on the base foundational metrics with which we could value video advertising. And that was a really important building block, you know, before we got too, you know, wildly creative about, you know, context and platform and time of day and mood and all of these other great things that we do eventually want to get to. So that was kind of one of my key takeaways from the panel. So, you know, Suzanne, who was one of the panelists, was looking at sort of location-based video. So she was really focused on, you know, video which was, I'm probably not very well describing the breadth of her business, but a lot of it was really about, you know, video that plays in gas stations or in other out-of-home locations. So, you know, for her, location-based awareness and contextual relevance was a really big thing. You know, Nikhil, who's the senior product manager at Google for YouTube, you know, was really thinking through YouTube and really sort of the monetization of that particular audience and how to really approach that. And you know, and then myself and Nielsen were also, Jeff from Nielsen were, you know, we're probably coming at it more from a sort of overarching, you know, competitive landscape. What are the starting points? You know, as well as sort of bringing in some of the research that we had done with respect to, you know, TV viewing and how online and video work together. So I think, you know, I think that sort of covered the spectrum of out of home, you know, specific online video only, and then video in the context of the broader media landscape. You know, one of the questions, particularly in the part of my world that really focuses on, you know, just sort of exclusively the online video portion of, you know, of this sort of 360-degree cross-media experience, is really looking at video and the growth of video and the degree to which viewing and all of these other great metrics and key measures around video are just so drastically outpacing video ad spending. So, you know, that kind of always gets me sort of curious, and so we really looked at that. And, you know, a lot of the time, so the starting point for the research was kind of going, okay, you know, why is this the case? To what degree are we currently monetizing online video? Like, what are some of the start where you stand insights that we can provide for the industry that might, you know, that might kind of get people going? So we ran this analysis. We're just about to relaunch the Video Metrics product and introduce ads and content reporting. So you'll be able to see those side by side and start to look at ratios. So we looked at that just from a broad industry basis and saw that when you analyze by videos, roughly 10% of videos viewed are ads. But when you analyze that by viewing time, of actual time spent, it comes down to right around 1% of total viewing time across the landscape of online video is ads. You know, it goes up to 2% if you look just at the social media, the social video category, 3% across entertainment, and then hovers somewhere between 6 to 8% on sites that concentrate on long format programming online. You know, and correct, yeah. So just sort of across that board as a category, and you know, when you contrast that to television, which is typically closer to 20 to 25% viewing time, which is ads, and you know, you can get into the ad skipping and all of that, but just to put that to one side, and we sort of said, well, hang on a second, it's not really fair to compare traditional dollars, you know, to digital pennies when, you know, we're not even near a comparable threshold. You know, so that was kind of a starting point of, you know, yes, we need greater innovation in video advertising. You know, yes, we need to continue to do studies which prove the effectiveness of video, but we're never going to be able to make up that delta just in, you know, upping the CPMs. You know, there's just not enough ad inventory that's being sold if we adjust it on a pure CPM basis. You know, we're ratcheting this up by 65% or 200%, and that's just not a scalable way to help video grow. So that was kind of, the starting point, and and then we kind of looked at what those potential ad loads might be. And we've done a lot of independent research. We're actually just about to start our second wave, which ran a sort of an ad sensitivity analysis, against how much advertising viewers would find acceptable against a TV hour, and netted out at a place that was at least 50% higher across all age categories than we were currently serving. So we kind of went, there's all this other great stuff, but let's just start here. We just don't have enough ads. And that was pretty much what got picked up.
So as a consumer, I can look forward to more ads on a per hour TV.
Well, it's the trade-off, because,
and I can fault you.
Well, I mean, as a consumer, it's without looking at a way to make the online viewing business model sustainable, there's really two options. Either viewing in that capacity goes away because it doesn't make financial sense for the people that are enabling the viewing, or we look at subscription. And obviously there's a lot of dialogue around TV everywhere, and these are all alternatives, but just in the current state, we either find a better way to monetize or we have to charge per viewing. So, so in the long run, the consumer may not be dying to get a greater ad load, but if they do want great content that's relevant to them, that's convenient, we saw that the values that were the most important to people was being able to stay current with their favorite shows, having the convenience of on-demand viewing, being able to stop and play whenever they wanted. All of these values sort of netted out higher than the utility of less ads. So it's not exactly inversely proportional, but if you had to pick, these were things which were more valuable. So we kind of went, let's just start the conversation here, and as we get better at proving out uniqueness or value of the platform, you can adjust that way. But if you're starting at an ad load that's even 20% of what the TV ad load is, it's like, can you at the outset charge 5 times the CPM? Because unless you can, then you've got to find some way to make up the difference. I really only know what's published on the web, and I think the sort of popular lines around that, and what I read is that it can be north of a $40 CPM is what people report on, and that is in a lot of cases quite significantly higher than the TV CPMs. And and I think when you get across more general video inventory, it probably is south of $20, and then when you get in the ad networks, it probably goes down again. So there is a sliding scale, but I think right now people are paying a premium, to advertise against long format programming online, and that's good. But the question is, will that be something long term that will scale if we keep ad loads where they are? I think there's a lot of good work being done right now. I know, there's a lot that's being done by the pool, and sites. If you go on to Hulu or to other sites like MSNBC, you've got sort of ad selector type ad technologies, which really kind of come down to a common theme, and that's really all about empowering the viewer to pick the ad experience that's relevant to them and that they want. So I think directionally that would be something, if I were a gambling person, that I would bet on. But I think, and then the point that I guess I always try and make every time I make the point of ad loads, or potentially increasing ad loads, is not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I don't think it's just about replicating broadcast TV ad loads. I'm not saying that, hey, just treat online video like it's another pipe or like it's another screen and be done with it. There's a lot of great things that come with the online platform. You've got the potential for interactivity, you've got really high degrees. I think it's like 1 in 2 video viewers regularly share viewers. 1 in 3 people who watch TV on the web will regularly share TV programs, I think at least once a week. So there's all of these other factors, commenting and uploading and, earned media and all of these great things. So I think when we think about how to innovate around ad formats, you want to, in some way, make sure that you do capture some of that new value, and you're not just kind of reproducing the same experience. But I think the starting point is at least to start yourself with an ad load where you've got some shot of making this work. and where you're not, trying to make up, a 75% difference, in ad loads just through innovation itself, because, a lot of the time that the proof is not there that it is that significantly, different to make that up. I think that's something which, before saying whether it's a case of, increasing the number or increasing the length of the ad, that's really something that you want to test out behaviourally. That wasn't something within the study that we conducted. We just kind of went, what's the volume? But, I think that's a great question. Is it going to be more effective to, view a long set of commercials up front and then have it commercial free? Is a 30 going to be better than a 60, or what is the, is a 30 and a 15 and a 15 better than a 60? So, there's all of these kinds of questions that just need to be tested behaviourally.
Have you done any research on those?
We've started.
15 is better than a 30.
We've started to, but I think it's really a matter of, now that we've sort of done this first wave of the research around what might the right total level be, then I think it's a case of actually saying, there's two key questions really. The first one is, what is the optimal volume of ads, to make the business model sustainable on the one hand, and then to keep the greatest number of viewers engaged with your content on the other, and there's that tension. But I think then there's the second question of, at what ad threshold do you keep viewers watching, but do you start to potentially degrade some of the other favorability metrics like brand metrics? And I don't even know if that degradation occurs, but that's sort of the research question going in. So I think we're at the point right now of going, what's sort of the load total? And then you kind of go, right, if we start there, how do we make the mix of ads right? And how do we test these against brand metrics so we make sure that we're not, gaining and losing in the same proportion? I think one question that we asked in the last research that we conducted, because I see some sites which actually run tickers, so your show will resume in 30 seconds or whatever, and hands down respondents said, yes, we prefer this. And I think it's really, from an advertising perspective, and I'm just kind of speculating now, but I think...
No, we're going way beyond your research.
Transcending the facts. So I think... the trick there is really what is the right length for the ad intervals where, it's short, it's sort of long enough to be valuable from an advertising and branding perspective, but short enough so that it's not worth trying to accomplish anything else in that time. So if, at what point do you kind of go, well, if I've got 4 minutes, I'm going to go and get a copy. So I think it's also looking at that tension and, realizing that, if I'm empowered to know how much time there is available, between programming breaks, at what point does it make it too much of a hassle for me to try and do anything else in that time, so that I can actually optimize the viewer's attention? And, I think that's probably the other question. Definitely from the outset, I think I'm a big proponent, and actually I think this came up yesterday as well, was, I'm a big proponent of experimentation. I think we've been very, very tentative and very polite when it comes to video advertising, so I think there's definitely a lot of room for experimentation. But first and foremost, it's to set up right at the outset what the overall objectives and success metrics are, and to not just be focused on innovation, but also to be focused on how to prove out that innovation right at the outset. Because we, as a video industry, we are desperately in need of great case studies and of great learnings. And, and I definitely don't see enough of that out there that would really help the industry collectively learn. But I think being very clear right at the outset as to why you want, what your campaign objectives are and why, what you hope to get from this campaign, and then to make sure that the way that the execution is set up and from an operational standpoint, that you will be able to know when you're successful or not, and you'll really be able to read that dashboard. I think that planning component is really critical.